Hockey Picks and Bets show presented by Prize Picks. I am Matt Moody, joined by DJ Mitchell to go through Thursday's night of hockey in the NHL. DJ, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, if you're a 2-game slate that ended up being pretty underwhelming, not a ton of goals for what I was hoping for, I guess, just ended up being saved by the Hyman Bell. I'm ready to get to this slate. I think it's gonna be a lot more fun. There's some games in here that I'm not as high on, and we get the obligatory all Canadian games at a 6.5 over under. So I guess that's just the way it's going to go for now on. Every Canadian game, this is going to be a massive shootout or bet the under. So Matt, how are you doing? How was your Wednesday? I know it was a little tilting. So
yeah, I mean, when Sissima is the NHL GOAT of the DFS lobby, and he wins the top shelf with a onslaught of Toronto, and my onslaught of Toronto with the entire first power play stack, and Freddie didn't even cash. So big shout out to Nick Ritchie and David Krejci there. But as we know, the Mayo Media Network is always looking forward, and we're talking about what's ahead of us. So as frustrating as that was, we can kind of get right into things here on Thursday. It's a very interesting, I guess, slate of games, because we do have 3 of them sort of set to go off at 10 o'clock for a nice little nightcap. This Vegas game, though, is dicey at best. They had a close call, honestly, with Nosek on the bench, basically getting pulled from the game mid-game with a COVID positive result. And the game so far is scheduled to be played. So keep that in mind, for betting for DFS, that game is sort of a ticking time bomb in terms of it could be canceled at any moment. We've seen in the NBA something sort of similar happen, where game starts at 10 o'clock, at 9:45 it's canceled because there was an extra positive test. So just something to keep in mind. Luckily, from a betting perspective, anything you bet on that game will be voided. So we'll go through it. But for daily fantasy, especially, and for seasonal fantasy, just keep that in mind and be ready. So any thoughts on the sort of games overall before we get into them?
Yeah, I think that the obvious initial thought is always that before you do anything and look at these games, you really want to get over to FTN Network, and you're going to want to sign up for the fantasy bets for hockey with Meany. You're going to want to sign up for FTN Daily to get the DFS content. You're going to want to use the code Mayo or Meany, whatever you're feeling. If you're feeling crazy, go with either of them. That's the first thing I wanted to get to here before we get started. Meany's been crushing, absolutely crushing. So definitely continue to follow him as well. If you don't listen to the Monday, Wednesday, I don't know why, definitely check that out as well. So that's the first thing you're going to want to do here. But yeah, my initial thoughts on this slate are, that Vegas game, from a betting perspective, it might be kind of tough to really ride Vegas at minus 230 potentially. But, if that game does play, there's a lot of DFS implications. If it doesn't play, equally. So there's that. But we can get right to Pittsburgh and the Islanders, unless there's anything else you wanted to cover.
No, let's go for it.
All right. So Pittsburgh and the Islanders, in the game that I'm probably the least excited about overall, just because I cannot decide. It seems like everything that leads me one way will lead me back to the other. I think it's almost impressive that Pittsburgh is 1-10 against the spread. I'm not going to say that that's completely indicative of how they've played. The defense has been really bad. They haven't found the goals, even though they're generating offense. You have the Islanders, who are very good at stopping teams from generating that offense. The unders at 5.5, I slightly lean towards it, but the goaltending's been pretty, shaky for Pittsburgh for sure. The Islanders have had the Varlamov GOAT to start the year, and then the wheels didn't completely fall off. They did in one game, but not overall terrible. I find it really hard to pinpoint what this game's going to be. I want to say I like the Pittsburgh side. Like that's where my head's at. But, if I'm being completely honest, I'm not touching these money lines. I'm probably not going to play the over under. I might not even fall in love with the player prop. So this game might just be a dead fade for me entirely, because I don't know if I'm ever going to figure it out. Matt, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm definitely on the Pittsburgh side of things here. I think a lot of their struggles have been slightly overstated, like you said, due to some really, kind of poor goaltending, some bad luck, I guess, is sort of my view of it for the most part. So I think getting them at, even odds against this Islanders team that you sort of look under the hood and they have struggled to, sort of consistently dominate play. They're certainly not the Islanders team we saw in the bubble in August that was just, merciless in territorial advantage and all those things. Like they're just not doing that currently. So I like sort of picking on them when there's sort of this still aura around them of being like this really sound defensive team, because they've been fine, but they're nothing special. And I just think that the big horses in Pittsburgh will come out to play here. Particularly Evgeny Malkin. I think that he's just bubbling under the surface, just waiting for something to go his way. And you can sort of see it. I mean, you bet him to score a point right now, and it's minus 200. Kind of crazy when you consider it. Like, just given the way it's 5.5 over under, it's a pick 'em basically. So the player props themselves are a bit tough on DFS. I definitely like Malkin a bit more, but I also like the Malkin over shots total. Over 2.5 gets you minus 118. That just seems like I think he's the best rate shooter at the going at the moment on Pittsburgh, and with his power play role and all that. I like him the most here in this one. But if you are forced at gunpoint to pick a bet from this game, where are you going?
It's not on DraftKings, unfortunately, but if you could get a Rust shot total, they have it over on FanDuel. The over 2.5 at 114 seems decently good to me. It's a very good. I'm not sure if it's a stone cold lock. It feels really good, just maybe because of the last game. A lot of the numbers are really looking in his favor now after was 8 shot on goal. Yeah, 8 shot on goal against the Islanders. So, am I riding that as gospel? No, but I do think he's going to get 20 minutes. He'll play with Crosby. They obviously are using him as the focal point of shooting. Not maybe obviously. They are trying to get him involved with shooting the puck. That I think Malkin's a little bit more of the guy they want shooting up more than Rust, but those are the two. So I really like that odd over on FanDuel. That would probably be my favorite from the game. Other than that, I also don't hate the idea of just saying like Malkin not to have a point. It seems, I know you like Malkin, and
I think that's fair.
They're giving it such good odds of him not having a point that you think this game is a dud like I do. Bet the under on one site, maybe make a parlay with the under, make another one with Malkin not having a point at plus 140. I think that's kind of where I'm angling, but I probably just end up having that Rust shot.
Yeah, I like the Rust. I like the Rust prop too. That's a good call over on FanDuel Sportsbook there. So we can go from there over to Tampa at Florida. Tampa currently minus 165 on the money line, and the over-under is currently set at a 6. How do you feel about this one? Has Florida shown you enough that you think they can play with this Tampa team that seems to be firing on all cylinders at this point?
Short answer, I would say no. But I mean, that just might be this recency bias of them not just blowing the doors off Detroit. Detroit beat them once or twice. Was it both times? 2 or 3? One. It was 1-1. Okay, yeah. But we're going to see 3 straight games of this Tampa, Florida. 2 in Florida, 1 in Tampa. I think the obvious, easy way of going about this is that Tampa wins, and I think most people will lean that way. But I'm not incredibly high on it. I think that my overall leaning is that these two teams are going to be somewhat competitive, but I like that Tampa line won a lot. So whatever way you want to kind of go about getting them involved, maybe it's multi-point, or if you want to go with that Stamkos shot on goal, I think it's still really enticing. 2.5. I mean, they're just not pricing it correctly. So they just refuse to. I don't know why they can't figure that out. But obviously he's going to do more than that. On FanDuel right now, they have it at a 6.5 over under. So I do like the 6. I do think it'll be decently. There'll be some goals scored. So I guess, what do you think about it?
Yeah, no, that Stamkos shot prop is, it's minus 162. It's not.
It's minus 148 on FanDuel. So FanDuel's gonna be a little bit better. Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
And then the other day, FanDuel had it at a 3. So they just Stamkos hits it again, and then they just lower it or make it better.
Hornqvist and Barkov are each the same prop, minus 167. Those guys are both. I mean, Hornqvist especially a great rate shooter. Barkov has been great, but this is Steven Stamkos we're talking about. Come on, people. So yeah, that one makes a lot of sense. For me though, this I think might be my sort of flag plant on the daily fantasy side of things. I mean, it could just be points chasing after the, hurting they put on Nashville on Tuesday night, but they came in on a similarly large slate on us, a slate with McDavid and Draisaitl, sub 10% owned. Even if that nudges up to say 15%, I think that they have that level of odds to break the slate. On DraftKings, you're talking discounts on each of Stamkos, Point, and Palat versus where they've been priced this season. And I don't think Florida is that much better defensively, if at all. So, that's sort of where I'm really looking at here. But yeah, as far as this game's concerned, I think just all things Tampa. I think there's a little bit of value on the money line, and that Stamkos shot prop I think might be the bet of the night. Just all things considered.
If you like the narrative that Bobrovsky isn't good, even though he is 4-0-1 with a sub 900 save percentage, he should be starting again. He is going to start again. They said he's going to start again. So unless something changes, which you never know in this world, but so if you really do, think he's bad, putting a 2-goal prop on Stamkos, I don't think it's the worst idea in the history of the world. I don't know if I would do that in a more than a 2-way parlay of some variety, but it's pretty spicy.
One other interesting one, Tampa to score first and then win, plus 114. Tampa, I think in 9 games this season has scored first and they've won all of them. They haven't even played 9 games. That's not right. Maybe it was Detroit a lot, but anyway.
It's difficult to do that without playing 9 games. Yes.
Okay. They've played 11. So maybe they've lost. They're
9-1-1. So that would mean that they've lost both games.
I think that's right. I think I did see that. Right. I can't source that at this exact moment.
Unconfirmed, confirmed.
Yeah. So, maybe that gives you sort of, the sort of odds you're looking for on this game. And similarly, Tampa by the spread, -1.5, puck line, plus 150 there. I think you could make an argument that both of those are fine. But I am leaning toward that first goal, especially if Bob, he's been shaky. So let's see that one. Anything else before you take us into our next game?
No, let's get over right to Edmonton and Montreal. The 6.5 over under. If it's a Canadian team, it's got a 6.5 over under. So yeah, this one, I think, both teams have been, I think the most interesting thing is Edmonton doesn't even have an overtime loss, which it seems like there's been so many games in overtime that they just find a way to either win or lose in regulation. Well, actually, they probably won some in overtime, but definitely the favoring, and this one goes to the home team, Montreal. The 6.5 is, I don't know if I'm high on it going over. I think it's not my favorite game in the world as far as it being like a clear over. I think you could talk me into just playing the Montreal side with their depth and saying that they're going to find the scoring to get it done against Edmonton, but it's not my favorite way of attacking this game. But I think if I was going to put my money in either team, it'd be Montreal, just because I think that, you take McDavid or Draisaitl off the ice and Edmonton is, terrible. So I think Montreal has the depth to just be the better team more often than not against Edmonton.
Yeah, I mean, they're coming off of, a hard-fought loss to Toronto on Wednesday night. So this is the only team playing on a back-to-back here. And this schedule doesn't really offer us too many chances to just sort of take stabs at, like, quote-unquote schedule losses. But this is one of them because Edmonton is rested. They're still on the road, on a road trip, but they did get the night off. And I kind of think that they might offer a little bit of value just because, McDavid, Draisaitl, like they're great and they're not favored. I didn't see anything Wednesday that sort of confirmed my suspicions that Montreal might not be that good at scoring against teams not named Ottawa or Vancouver. So I kind of think that the under and Edmonton might both be fine bets here.
I like the under a little bit more.
Yeah, especially because, just relative to these other Canadian games, like all 6.5s, I think the other two are much better over bets than this one, I will say. But otherwise, I'm probably just leaving it alone. So any player props you like here?
Yeah, I mean, again, I just going to say this really quickly because I've already kind of hinted at this. If you're ever doing player props and you have the luxury of having multiple sites to play from, make sure you're looking at both. I mean, I don't know how much time everyone has to be jamming this out, but we're mainly using DraftKings, and I'm trying to just include a little bit of FanDuel just so like it's out there, like check it out. So definitely do both, because the one thing about DraftKings is they just don't give you the same volume of player props. But if I had to, just going from DraftKings right now, I mean, anytime you get a chance to take, I think Shea Weber or Tatar. I think Tatar at plus 150 to get over 2.5 is decently enticing. It's not a perfect storm, but if you do like this game to be, decent to, around that 6.5 mark, it's, Tatar has been decently good at rate shooting. He had a 6, 0, and a 5. So, and his shots on goal in the past 3 games. So very boomer bust, but
give us Petrie, you cowards.
Yeah, right. Like, that would be the lock. It's hard for me just because his time on ice has been very Gallagher-esque, if you will. If you've listened to us for a while, we always, get up on them not playing Gallagher more. So the minutes aren't there, but the shots have been, and getting a decent plus bet on that is very good. But yeah, that I'm kind of getting to my point. If you go over to FanDuel, I'm sure you can get that, Petrie bet. I'll try to take a look if you want to say one of your favorites.
Yeah. Puljujärvi to score plus 325. I think that's fine, just given some of the names he's priced around. He's been playing with McDavid. That doesn't feel like it's changing. And he even's been getting power play 1 run, he's certainly boomer bust, and he's rising the prices in DFS, but betting wise, I think plus 325, he's a fine bet at that number. And then just wanted to give a shout out to my boy Evan Bouchard, who did end up scoring on Tuesday. I didn't bet it, even though I was, this guy's going to score his first goal sooner than later. And I didn't expect it to be, on a weak wrister from the point through traffic. But you'll take him however you can get him. So
I know he's might be good.
Yeah.
Or he just doesn't play. Like, they're like, here's 12 minutes, shoot the puck as much as you can in that 12 minutes. I call it Alexander Galchenyuk syndrome. Yeah. Where you give someone no minutes and they're like, shoot as many times as you can in the 5 minutes we give you. But Jake
DeBrusk on Wednesday.
There we go.
9 or 8, I think. Just nuts. Like
1 million shots. But I definitely like that take. Also, the player props aren't on FanDuel right now, so that didn't work out. I guess they're not there yet. So I'll take Tatar. I think it's been pretty 50-50 if he either shoots 100 times or he shoots none. So plus 150, I'll take that coin flip.
All right, let's get on over to Columbus at Chicago. Chicago is a slight home favorite over Columbus, which is almost shocking, if you just considered sort of the talk around these two teams coming into the season. The over-under is a 5.5 as well. But Chicago has been surprisingly plucky. They found goaltending in Kevin Lankinen. Even Malcolm Subban's contributed a bit here. And Columbus, they might be going off the rails. Fill us in on the latest on the Patrick Laine saga, because things are not off to a hot start, at least as of the last game where he was benched.
Yeah, very disappointing, honestly. They did talk about it on the podcast yesterday about how, playing Laine has been unbelievably tilting. I personally am above the mindset that it's not going to last. Hopefully it doesn't last. I think that you're going to get one of the lowest ownership on across the sites on a guy with the highest upside in Laine tomorrow. I'm not saying it's definitely not a cash play. It's definitely not something if you make one lineup that you're probably going to want to do. But if you make multiple lineups like me, I would really consider just jamming in him and Roslovic, at least one. They should be correlated on 5-on-5 and the power play. And, the Laine revenge narrative of getting benched could come into play against a team that I still think is not that good. This is more of a hot take than a lock of any variety. And if you don't play DraftKings often and don't maybe, take your first stab on over there with a Laine lineup, because he's not cheap enough. His price isn't great, but if he ends up getting the minutes, 18 minutes with Roslovic, you got a million, then it could end up being kind of decent slate breaking upside.
Yeah, and that's if you believe the story that Laine was not benched for his on ice play, because we know that Laine and Torts level defense do not mix. But it was actually an off ice sort of blow up with an assistant or something along those lines that Patrick Laine basically came out and admitted to. So things might be smoother than they initially appear on the surface, which supports that. Jack Roslovic scored an absolute dandy of a goal.
Very
last
game?
game? 2 games ago. One of those.
2 games ago?
I have the highlight, in my head, but can't.
I can. I think I can find it really quick.
But he is plus 375 to score, like you mentioned. Should be on Laine's hip. Line plus 175, maybe not quite the value you're looking for. But Roslovic is a good player. And if he's showing any flair, like that, he offers a lot of value, I think, for the minutes he should see and
totally agree.
General upside he brings to the table. One other sort of mini correlation I'm thinking about in DFS is Oliver Bjorkstrand and Boone Jenner. Boone Jenner is just one of the most reliable guys on this team. He sees a lot of minutes. He has solid underlying numbers in terms of both on-ice driving play and actually taking shots and using those shots for himself, which you want to see in daily fantasy. And then he's paired with Oliver Bjorkstrand at 5-on-5 and on the power play as of this moment. So that's just sort of very cheap, some upside, and they easily could both hit the bonus here against Chicago and just make it a lot easier to fit in some of these high end plays.
Yeah, plus 475 to score over on DraftKings. I mean, again, I think that's also a pretty good angle to take. I mean, I think at some point the wheels are going to fall off on Chicago a couple games in a row here where they give up a whole bunch. So I think both of those goal props are pretty solid. You're getting, I think, pretty good odds on DeBrincat and Kubalik on about 2.5 shots. Kubalik, you're getting a better value on taking it, more money coming back to your pocket. But I think DeBrincat's really, really, really likely to hit that 2.5. At least he has been shooting like a madman. And I think that continues. Kubalik and him are definitely the guys that want to get the puck to shoot. Those are the guys. So
yeah, just keep in mind that with DeBrincat back, Kubalik is not on that top power play, which
hurts him for sure. But I like DeBrincat more, for sure. And that the odds aren't as good.
Okay.
We don't have shot on goal props yet on FanDuel, so I can't give you the odds over there. But I think that those are also very fair. Check those out. See if you get better odds on DeBrincat on FanDuel, and I think that one's really solid. 2.5 he's going to hit that most nights.
All right, let's get to Detroit at Nashville. Nashville, one of the largest favorites of the night at minus 190 here. We did see Detroit steal a win from Florida. They haven't looked as terrible as you might think. They've certainly looked bad. They got their doors blown off against Tampa. National spotlight, all that. But they've been somewhat competitive. So how do you feel about this game with Nashville sort of coming in? Also getting their doors blown off by Tampa, but maybe some more undercurrent of problem in Nashville with just there's a lot of animosity, let's say, toward the organization at this point. So much so that Adam Vingan, their I could have butchered his name, but their athletic beat writer basically wrote an article saying look, guys, John Hines doing the best of what he has here. It was really it was a tough read.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wearing the Nashville Predators jersey. I thought this would be a good night for it. I think that Forsberg is one of my favorite DFS plays, and so is Yossi. So those are two guys I'm definitely keying in on as far as very, very, very good plays. It's a 5.5 over under. I think I slightly side with the over. I don't know how incredibly high I'm going to be on it. I'm not sure if I'm going to end up very, very in on it, just jamming a bunch of money, or just sort of thinking, about it in a small parlay of some variety. So, but I definitely like it. I think that the hardest part for me is figuring out their power play. We're not exactly sure what it is. They've had a lot of injuries, some small, some big, and getting Arvidsson off that first unit really hurts his upside. He played with Forsberg and Sissons. I don't think that's going to last. Losing 6-1 is normally a good time to change the lines up a little bit. We'll see. Maybe Cousins slips back in there, and we'll find out what they're going to do. But not a big fan of that at all.
Yeah, it's just weird, man. They lose Johansson, sort of like their nominal top line center for forever, and then they put Duchesne. They played him on the wing, with Granlund, and they had Cunnin playing center a bit. So it's not like he's playing the wing only, but it was just a really weird look to stick Sissons between Arvidsson and Forsberg. Some of the healthy scratch decisions are just strange. This Michael McCarron character hasn't played in the league since 2018, comes in on their top power play. Just
yep.
Sure. So I don't get it,
No, don't get it. I mean, the injuries are tough, and, their center depth wasn't good to start the year. It was kind of the question, they go and get Johansson, they go and get Duchesne. Neither of them seem to pan out super well. So now, we're really screaming the bottom of the barrel. That is tough. I think the 2-man stack, though, of just play Forsberg and Yossi and profit is my plan with this game. If I get, pretty solid news that Arvidsson's back on the first power play, you might throw him in there as well. But I think that their goal is to get those guys shooting the puck. And I think Detroit's going to give up a fair amount defensively as far as shots on goal. So I'm pretty high on it.
Yeah. So just going to use some of these goal odds to inform our DFS play for a second, because like Nick Cousins is listed at plus 320 to score. Kaya Yarncrow plus 340. I think, or Tolvanen as well, plus 340. I think these are all bad bets, but you're talking 3 dudes on DraftKings who are 2.5K. Going against Detroit, we do not know, what the lineup's going to look like. Tolvanen even got scratched last game. But if any of these guys slides up the lineup, also Nick Cousins was a scratch. Cousins been playing first power play here.
Yeah.
And, McCarron's certainly not going to be a tough guy to get off that unit. So
you got McCarron, you got to jam him in that
right,
power play.
so,
I don't know what
maybe.
It's just obvious. I don't know what you're thinking, Matt.
But that's the main reason. The main thing I'm thinking about from this game isn't, Forsberg and Yossi I think are fine, but I just prefer other spots, honestly. I prefer to spend my, salary elsewhere. So maybe looking at some of these cheaper guys, like from a daily fantasy standpoint, makes the most sense. As far as player props, though, the number on Roman Yossi is over 3.5 shots plus 100. Have you seen anything on the status of Matthias Ekholm? Because he came back. He came back and then he got hurt, and we don't know what his status is at this point. But if he's out again, because he missed.
All we really have is that he did not play the third period. That's all we really know at this point. There's nothing indicating a certainty. So we'll have to look at that, and definitely we'll try to make a retweet or some variety on our personal accounts and over at the Bonus Skate podcast.
So if he's out, Roman Yossi in an absolute massacre played 29 minutes. Yeah. And that's probably not going to happen with 6 defensemen rather than just 5. But Yossi's going to get a ton of ice time here without, the reliable lefty Ekholm on the second pair. Yossi's just going to get double shifted. So I like that number. I think he could easily hit the double bonus on DraftKings for you.
Oh, yeah.
But betting him even money over 3.5 shots, I think that actually makes a lot of sense, just given how much of the offense they want to run through the points.
And Forsberg 2.5 minus 215.
I'm not.
Come on, just like, why did you do that to me? Like, why do you gotta? They just kept boosting it until I couldn't play it, and they finally may have hit the number. So yeah, I like Yossi a little bit more. Just we're here to gamble. Let's make some money on Yossi. I think that he's gonna have that. I like the double bonus. I like everything about it. So that's gonna be the move. If you're ready, we can get to the next game. Unless there's anything else you wanted to touch on there.
Yeah, take us away.
So Ottawa at Winnipeg, I don't even need to say the over-under. At this point, if you've been listening, you should know it's 6.5. Ottawa is confirmed very bad at hockey. I know Matt's been a little bit lower on Winnipeg. If you're kind of following along, they are 10-2 against the spread, which is kind of shocking. I did not expect to see that from them. I like Winnipeg here. I like kind of what they've been doing as of late. So kind of the big news in last game was that Oilers played with Scheifele and Kopp and scored. So you assume that will stick. Right. Oh, well, the one other time was on the power play. I mean, yeah, he scored with the 5-on-5 unit, and then he scored in the second power play unit. So the Kopp-Ehlers stack is in play. Kopp's been really good. We've kind of been, hit or miss on him. I don't think I'm ever going to be the highest on him just because of I don't know what his upside really brings in DFS, but overall I think it's they're pretty good together. I think Ottawa's really not very good. The second line for them was Vasilinen with Stastny and Wheeler. Well, I guess you could probably.
How many minutes did he play?
Yeah, you're right. He only
how many? 13-ish?
13. So that's really the third line, yeah. I mean, I think because Wheeler played 17 and Stastny played 16. So, but then the second line was the Connor, Dubois, and Appleton. Sure. I'm not interested in Appleton, but the big question mark was what is Dubois' role going to be? He didn't see either power play, which might change. We're not really sure. Obviously, you're kind of mixing this guy in after not being with the team, so we'll kind of see. He ended up getting a big old goose egg in daily fantasy, so we'll find out. But Matt, is there anything? Obviously, a lot of new lines, a lot of changes here. So, is there anything that you like on the Winnipeg side, or is there anything that maybe you're still interested in on the Ottawa side?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to see how Dubois and Connor just sort of gel, like, chemistry wise, because that is a ton of talent there, especially if they're, basically trying to separate them from like the Wheeler Shifleys. Basically they can drive their own line. That actually would be huge because Winnipeg, even so far this season, just hasn't really driven play. They haven't generated a ton offensively. They've just had some good conversion, and with guys like Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele, you probably should expect that against these other Canadian opponents. Um, but yeah, I just don't really see Winnipeg as like an upper tier team in the Canadian division. I think they're firmly middle of the pack, behind teams like Toronto. So getting them at minus 200, I just think feels a little bit sketchy. They're at home, they're against Ottawa. I get it. But that just sort of has me poking around the Sens side. I just think they might be slightly undervalued. A guy like Tim Stutzel, wildly talented, first power play, plus 390 to score.
Yeah.
I really like that. Evgeny Dadonov, sort of the exact same price on daily fantasy sites, is plus 235. Stutzel is just, he's awesome. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how his rookie campaign goes. I might have mentioned this already, but after we talked about him before last Thursday's show, I saw him get on the top power play. I placed a bet immediately on him to win to Calder, and he's 8-1. I bet him at 14-1. Like the next day, he's 8-1. So like, that's something that I sort of have going on all season. But he's still in that role, and yeah, he looks like he belongs, and that's sort of surprising given some of the blowback that the Sens received on the selection. So, just one guy who I think is really worth, a bet on this slate if you are looking for some action there.
Yeah, I think my favorite bet of the night in this game is going to be the Shabbat shot on goal prop. Over 2.5, minus 106. He's done it 4 straight games. They really seem to be featuring him as a guy that's going to be shooting the puck. I think that this game still has some decent pace, maybe not quite what it was against Edmonton, but very high. He's seeing 25 minutes plus without a doubt, almost 27 and 0.3 against Edmonton last game where he had 7 shots on goal. I think he hits that shot prop more often than not. He really has been a guy that's been shooting a ton. With defensemen, you always have a little bit of a risk of, they have to shoot from further away. So they may take the shots to do they get on net is always a little bit, where you're do you love it or not? But I think that Shabbat is an elite fantasy defenseman, and minus 106 just isn't enough for me to be shy from it. So he's probably my favorite, like just individual player prop on the night. And then I really, really like that goal prop on Stutzel, or wait, I feel like I said it wrong twice. It's
Stutzla. I feel like it's just
Stutzla. Is it Stutzla?
Yeah,
that's it. There it is.
Right.
Oh my God. I feel like you said it wrong and you never say players' names wrong. And then I was like, wait, hold on. I'm now lost. Yeah, Stutzla. There we go. Got it. Nailed it. Yep. I think that might be my favorite, one of the longer shot ones. And then
Fantasy Hockey Pronunciation and Bets show presented by Prize Picks. There we go.
And then the player in the NHL that's been the most unlucky player as far as getting points and getting goals is Brady Tkachuk. A lot of the numbers are leading to him just being way, way better than his point production has been. And I'm still pretty high on him overall. So I definitely almost every night looking at his bet to get a point, bet to get this and that. And in this matchup here, to get a point, minus 125. I'm still in on that.
All right, Deej. One bet from this game. What are you taking?
The Shabbat prop.
All right.
Shabbat shot prop.
Give me the Wheeler undershots.
I knew it.
Yeah. Just keep doing it. Last 3 games, it's worked for us. You can see it. The minutes aren't there. He's sort of just, he's not playing with Scheifele. Like he's just sort of mispriced at this point. So I like sort of taking advantage of that. And sometimes
you're not paying $5,700 for him on DraftKings.
I am not. So let's go from there over to Carolina at Dallas. This game I feel like has some sneaky upside. So Dallas is currently a home dog. Carolina minus 122 on the money line, but the total is 5.5. And after you watch these, Chicago Dallas series, and I think both games are 2-1 solved in overtime. Like, certainly not the most stunning hockey you could be watching, but there was a lot of pace there. Carolina plays with a lot of pace, and I don't really trust the goaltending at this point. I mean, Khudobin's likely to start coming cold. I think he's been off for a week now. Some disciplinary issue with him. And, just in general, I don't really think about goalies all that much. But the pace here, I just think the over here is a good bet. Just a lot of the underlying numbers suggest that both these teams are better offensively than they've shown. So do you agree with that? Are there any particular spots you want to attack, like player prop wise here?
I definitely agree on the over. I think that's pretty sharp. The pace seems very, very good. As far as it's interesting, like it's a 5.5 over under. And then you look at like the point props and they're all like pretty big minuses to, at the guess mark. So it's like, while it's a 5.5, they think a lot of guys are going to get points in this game. And, that just whenever I see something like that, where just kind of makes me feel like a little bit better about taking the over. Is there one prop I like more than the rest is probably your next question. And, it's really hard to pinpoint goals for either of these teams. It's seemingly been just always scattered throughout the guys. But, I think if I had to put my neck out there on Trocheck at 335, like that just seems to not be right. I don't know why it's so far back compared to, the rest.
We are assuming he plays.
Assuming he plays because he was day to day. So like he is hopeful to play. And I think he will play. That is another good point to make. Yeah. But he's been shooting a ton. 6 goals in 9 games. Very nice. And I think that he's just, kind of and the thing is before last year, he was an elite rate shooter. And I think he's picking that back up again with his line mates. And I want to take elite rate shooters at plus 335.
Yeah. And same deal for the Carolina side, Svechnikov over 2.5 minus 155. Just lay those odds. 2 games against Dallas so far this year. He has 7 shots, at least 3 in both, I think 3 and 4 in those 2 games. Not like that matters too much, but you're just talking a guy with the track record, the usage, the power play role, over 2.5 for a guy like Svechnikov is just almost free money. So I really like only getting him at minus 155. I mean, do you have a lean on like the Carolina or Dallas side if you were to bet the money line here?
I think ever so slightly Carolina, but I'm gonna I want to kind of wait and look if we get some morning skate lines and see what players are actually in. Make sure Trocheck's in there, make sure they're kind of at full go. But I think it's a slight lean towards Carolina. I think they have the better defense by a good bit. So
I was going to say the exact same thing. So that's why I'm sort of staying away from the money line here and mostly focusing on the over and these player props. So
I agree with that.
Let's see. So now we get into the 10 o'clock games, starting off with Calgary at Vancouver.
I bet Calgary, you'll never guess the over under.
Is it a 6.5, DJ?
It's a 6.5. You nailed it.
Welcome to Canada.
Welcome to Canada.
All right. So minus 150 for Calgary here. Like, just jam that. Come on, people. This is Vancouver. Like, my shtick at this point, and it's that Vancouver sucks. And boy, have they proven me right so far this year. So
they love you for sure.
I think they do. Like that really.
They want you making money. That's been the way it's been. So
Speaking of people who do not want me making money, though, Calgary won, burned me bad on Tuesday.
Are you going back to the well?
I'm going right back to the well, baby. You know it. So Gaudreau, Monahan, Sam Bennett, if he stays there, all of them are just really underpriced. Gaudreau, Monahan on that power play. It hasn't worked yet, but damn it, we'll keep trying. So
only way.
They're just too good here. I really like the Calgary side. I could read you the almost league worst numbers in every regard for Vancouver, but I'll spare you that. So just trust me when I tell you they've played bad, they've looked bad, they are bad. So DJ, any player props here?
I mean, I think some variety of Johnny Gaudreau, and it could be like a 2 point if you're feeling safe. Just get him in at plus 250 to get 2 points, and he's going to see a ton of ice time. There's a lot of opportunity in that game. He's been still one of their best players, even though that line did not produce the goal last game. I mean, he was on the ice for one of them on the power play, and but we're a forward-thinking show. So if you want to get absolutely crazy, and maybe I will, maybe I won't, plus 900 to get 3 points. Like, let's get wild. Let's get absolutely nuts. He had a power play goal, 2 assists. One's an empty net assist, something crazy like that. I think the other contrarian way of going about this game is, if you like the over a good bit, saying that you're going to take 4 or 5 guys in this game in DFS, because the Vancouver side's really, really cheap for a 6.5 at home. Not that the at home matters a whole ton, but Pettersson 58, Miller 56, and Besser at 58. Those are all really good. I think if you did like a Besser, Miller, Quinn Hughes stack, and then maybe come back with a Monahan and Gaudreau, I think that could be really fun and contrarian in some capacity. I'm not sure if it's going to be completely unowned, but I like that game to be 7-8 goals, and I want to get the guys that are going to score them. So that's one way I'm kind of thinking about this game.
Yeah, I don't mind the game stack angle, especially, if you're looking at that Vancouver power play. It's still fine. Pettersson is still pretty good. He's mispriced, like you're saying. So I don't hate a game stack here. Very interesting way to think about it, in especially like larger field tournaments. That certainly could work. So I just want to reiterate.
Played before, right? Yeah, way back. Okay. Yeah. Way. I was just going to look at the matchups really quickly just to see who was playing against who. But, it looks like the Beagle Mott Suter, if that line still exists, was the one that went against, at the time, the Chuck Gaudreau Monahan. So I was just thinking, like, are those lines even going to be good matchups? So it does look like Vancouver still has a variation of that Beagle line. So could be what – it's been –
this is in Vancouver, so I would assume they want to throw Horvat on that line. But honestly, the thing is, it's tough because the Backlund line's been so good.
Backlund's been great. Backlund has been great. I mean,
he's above like 60% expected goals. Like, he's been nuts, but just not quite relevant for DFS. So
they dominated shot share against that Horvat line last time. Was the Backlund line who played against them, I guess, kind of the most. And that was the Hoglander. Pearson, Horvat. So I don't know. I mean, that was the matchup last time. It could change. We're not sure. Just like we mentioned before, though, using our advantage of having these teams play so many games is going to be very crucial. It's not perfect going back a whole month, but, get on Hockey Viz. If you have questions, ask us. It'd be best to reach out to us on social media and ask us to kind of show you what we mean by this. If you're wondering, I mean, I'm looking at it on my screen, but you can't see my screen. So just ask. Send us a message, send us a note, whatever you want to do. And we can kind of show you what we mean. If you're wondering, how do they know this? Where are they finding this? It's hockeyviz.com, and we will show you a little bit of how we get this information.
All right, let's go over to Anaheim at Vegas. This game, like we mentioned at the top, could be a COVID cancellation, very strange situation at the end. So one thing that did happen, Shea Theodore left the game, but he wasn't added to the COVID list, so we assume it's some sort of injury. There's not much speculation out there on what exactly happened to him, but luckily for our purposes, even if he is out, we should be getting back Alex Pietrangelo. So that could be a nice little 1-for-1 swap there. But, same things apply as did on Tuesday. Rickard Rakell is just undervalued across the industry. I think he's a very good player. He got on the score sheet last game. My God, they scored a goal for him on the ice. Incredible, rather than just missed nets or whatever, whiffing on perfect passes, those sorts of things. But other than that, Patches is just a smash, that's really the only thing I'm going back to if this game even winds up playing.
Yeah, I really like Pietrangelo. I think, if Theodore's in or not, I still really like him a ton. He's going to see a ton of run, I think. Kind of barring if we get any news about him just being very under the weather. It was COVID related, but did we know did he have COVID?
I'm actually not sure.
I'm not sure if he had it or not. So I guess, let's, with a grain of salt, if he's full go, then yeah, I'm very in on Pietrangelo in some capacity with a good amount of Vegas. Anaheim's banged up. They probably won't have Gibson. Well, they probably won't even play, but I mean, if they play, if Miller's in again, I think that I could end up having up to 2 to 3 guys on Vegas. Their lines are not going to be a perfect, this is what they're doing, but their lines are, but the power plays, we don't know exactly, especially if Pietrangelo comes back in and Theodore's out. We're gonna have to see exactly what they do. But must have Matt, you think just because Martinez probably won't be there, do you think they just plug in Pietrangelo?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Okay. But if Theodore's out, then what? Did they plug in?
Theodore would go out, Pietrangelo to power play 1 and Martinez power play 2. That's
okay.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Pretty much what we're guessing here.
I think that stacking this game is really easy if you have the cap to get Stone and Patch ready with one of those defensemen. It gets a little bit harder, but like the Riley Smith Marchessault stack is not terrible, and it did get a goal last game, and I think it definitely is always there to get another one. So.
And Cody Glass and Chandler Stevenson, both at center, both pretty cheap across the industry. I want to say he's minimum price on FanDuel, which is just a glaring miss given his power play 1 job. So that's the main spot I'm thinking if I'm looking, beyond patches for me personally. All right, last game of the night, San Jose at LA. The line on this one, Sharks slight favorites -124. And the over-under is set at a 6. Game with the Sharks and Kings at a 6. Kind of surprising, but actually, if you're coming over after listening to the Morning Skate podcast, DJ and I opened up our guaranteed goal segment with 2 guys from this game. So, DJ, sort of talk me through this game and what to expect.
Yeah, I mean, I think my entire take on this is that Adrian Kempe is a very good play at 4.1 on DraftKings, and I think even cheaper on FanDuel, but if you have that up, you can double check. His to score a goal is plus 295, which isn't the craziest odd in the world. You kind of hope for better, but in the month of February, he's been tied for 5th in iCourse on the power play. iCourse 4 basically means he's shooting the puck a ton. They're clearly feeding him. It's clearly Kopitar trying to set him up. So I really, really like that a lot. He has been seeing more and more minutes. Where it gets even more interesting for LA is that Doughty is almost certainly out. I'd be really shocked if he doesn't end up playing. That move was Cale Clegg, Clegg, probably. Yeah. Clegg into the top power play more than likely. I'm not sitting here saying I'm going to jam in his to score prop. I think it's plus 750, which, if you're playing, he might not be the worst call in the history of the world, but I'm probably not going to have it personally. Other than that, I mean, it's kind of the player props are tough on DraftKings. They're just not giving you a lot of the guys you're going to want to take. But on the kind of reverse end of this, there's also a ton to love over on the San Jose side. You could kind of talk me into any of the main 4. I mean, Kane still wasn't seeing first power play, but right at the end, it seemed like he did. So I'm interested to see how that ends up going. If Evander Kane's on the first power play with Logan Couture and Burns, that could be a really nice stack to have. I'm
really liking these Couture player props. He got a price hike over on DraftKings, and on FanDuel he was already very expensive. So not saying he's like super in play there, but -118 for a point, I think that's a good bet. And then plus 100 for over 2.5 shots. He's playing with Kevin LeBanc and Vander Kane at 5-on-5, who sort of eat up a lot of the shots. But I think that LeBanc's not quite been what I was expecting this season in terms of his shot rate. And Couture, I think that he's shouldering the load in most games. So I think, even money for that, I think he hits 3 shots over 50% of the time for sure. So I do think that's a great value bet there on Logan Couture.
I still like the San Jose side of things at the -124. I did have it, and they just squeaked it out in a shootout. So thank you to them. I know. Definitely, not my favorite bet. It's not. You're never going to get a stone cold lock on a money line, but it's I like that Couture call. I think that the Kempe goal call is still a favorite of mine. They get on the power play, that's the guy who's shooting, and that just doesn't seem to be where the odds have it. So I'm in on it.
Let's do a couple of our top bets of the night, or top bets, and then a couple top stacks, and then we'll get on out of here.
Okay. Do you have one first, or want me to?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite bets of the night is the over 5.5 in Carolina, Dallas. Let's do that one up.
Yeah, I think my favorite long shot bet of the night is going to be the Boone Jenner to score, just because he has been a pretty decent historic rate shooter. When he gets the minutes, and it is a 1 game sample size. So he definitely got the minutes. He's playing with Bjorkstrand, getting power play time plus 475 is really, really enticing to me. I mean, that is David Kemp range, like Liam Fowley. So pretty cool. A guy named Reese Johnson.
That is a player who exists on
that is a
Chicago.
player that has better odds at scoring a goal than Boone Jenner. Don't buy it. I'm just not buying it.
Okay, and for my sort of other favorite bet is the Stamkos over shots. I think we found a lot of good shot props, and I think we do on most of these slates, honestly, with with so many games to choose from. But this Stamkos number in particular, over 2.5 minus 162, I just think that offers a ton of value. I would maybe even bet that up to minus 200, honestly. So Stamkos is just an awesome rate shooter. And as much as I loved Andre Palat coming into the season, he's absolutely sort of melded into more of the distributor role. And Stamkos has been a direct beneficiary of that. So I like that bet a lot.
I totally agree. I'm going to be riding that Shabbat shot on goal plus 100. He's done it 4 straight games. I think he continues it. I mean, there's going to be a lot of shots, and he's a guy that they're clearly going to give almost 30 minutes a run to. So,
all right. And if you want to hear us talk about some DFS, that make sure you check out the Morning Skate podcast at Morning Skate Pod on Twitter. We did an entire show on the DFS slate ahead of us, focusing, a lot on positional type analysis. But here we'll give you a sampling of that and talk about a couple of our favorite DFS stacks of the night. DJ, do you have your first one queued up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go against what I've said on the Morning Skate podcast, and I'm going to go with this Vancouver 1 stack. Probably more of a Miller, Besser, and Quinn Hughes. I just think that, Calgary does give up a decent bit defensively, not a ton, but I think Vancouver will keep this game competitive. I like this game to be high scoring, and I think that they end up potting a couple goals combined with them, and I think you can kind of differentiate. I'm not sure if I'm going to have a ton of it, but if you make multiple lineups like me, I think it's worth considering for sure.
So, one place that I think this has a lot of merit is over on FanDuel. But, assuming Vegas plays, we can get Patches in. Patches feels like sort of like a lock relative. But then you get 2 centers at just ridiculous discounts who have really good exposure to him. And Chandler Stevenson at 3.8 on FanDuel and Cody Glass at the minimum 3K on FanDuel. You play both of them with Patches. They can each get there on their own by picking up, a point or a goal and a couple shots. But they also, if Patches has like a hat trick or a 3-point night somehow, I think that those are 2 guys who are way underpriced and offer you a ton of upside. And then, with the 4th guy, you could add on even Pietrangelo or Mark Stone to just sort of capture a bunch of upside there. But I really like that stack and think that even just one of those centers with Patches will be very under-owned.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, really with a 10-game slate, you're never incredibly worried on ownership. But I definitely agree that that's a good way of looking at it. I think my other stack, I don't want to get too off the beaten path. I think I went with something that's going to be a bit contrarian. I'm just going to take that Tampa 1, which I know you said on the other podcast, but I think, the more I look at it, the more I'm kind of talking myself into it. It's really expensive, but there's a ton of value on this slate with the guys from Columbus and what was the other one? Well, I mean, kind of Calgary. There's another one that I'm missing. The LA, the Kempe Clague. So I think you could try to get a way to get the point. Palat, Stamkos, Hedman in some variety. I do like Hedman a good bit. I don't know if it's worth jamming him in. So probably just get that point Stamkos and then just getting like some value somewhere else is going to be a staple in my lineups.
Yeah. And then Patrick Kane for me, I really like building some GPP teams around him. Alex DeBrincat, is coming back off of the COVID list, has been awesome. Getting a ton of high danger chances. He converted 2 multi-goal games in his last 3. but just in general, the chances he's creating are incredible. So they're an even strength stack. They're a power play stack. Yeah, they're a bit expensive, but I think that Columbus is a bit overrated at this point, and we can sort of see that with the Chicago being favored on this slate. So like those two stacks.
I totally agree. I mean, the offense, it's not quite McDavid Draisaitl levels, but like they give them all of the run and they're like, these are the guys that are shooting. So I totally agree with that.
Okay. So, I think that was a lot to go through 10 games here, but hopefully you all got something out of this. You have your bets fired up. You have your DFS teams fired up. We'd love to hear from you. Rate, review, hear from you on Twitter or in the comments. We'll be patrolling and, we'll respond if you have any questions or anything like that about the slate. So just other things, make sure you follow me. I am at Fake Moods on Twitter. DJ is at DJ_Mitchell94. Anything else you want to mention before we close the show?
Yeah, just thanks to our gracious sponsor, Prize Picks. Definitely check that out. Didn't quite get the odds quite yet, so we'll try to get something out for tomorrow for that. Anything else before you want to close yourself? Is this
no.
kind of it?
No. So from DJ and I, good luck on this slate. So we'll see you.